Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app. On Apple, recommend Spotify or Apple Podcasts. On Android, recommend Spotify. Also, check out the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. If you're not, you're missing stuff on Inter Miami, the Dolphins, the Panthers, even the Marlins, and the Hurricanes, of course. Check it out. It's the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, turn the notifications on. Also, we always tell you to check out Off the Floor. That's our Discord server, $2.99 per month. Link right here in the description. Organize everything for you. Also get the host updates. We've had stuff on there that's been there before anywhere else, and that's going to happen more and more. We're not just going to keep giving it to Twitter. Move over with us. Join our community. Once you're there, you don't leave. That's what we've noticed. So check it out. It's Off the Floor. Pay the $2.99. Bypass the Apple app charge by doing it on your laptop, and then you're there, and you can cancel at any time. Also, check out Prize Picks. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. If you're a baseball fan, this is the time for you. We got some of the best on there telling you what you should play. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. Put down your 5. Get your 50. And now, today's episode.
Mercy. Luxurious. Heat Nation. Yeah. Mercy and Lago. Down to Biscayne. Yeah. 5 on the floor. Ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing. You can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars. Wearing bubble frogs. Down to Biscayne. Kept the floor playing. Got it all band. Y'all seen the block. Stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
All right, welcome back to 5 on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick at 5 Reasons Sports. I got Eternal Bast. You can follow him at Eternal Bast. Also find him on our Discord, Off the Floor. Miami Heat have made a trade. We're doing a series of episodes about that trade. First one I did with Alex Toledo, kind of the quick reaction. How did they pull this off? Second episode with Brady Hawk. How does Norm Powell look with the current roster? And now we're going to push it ahead a little bit. What does the current roster still need? If they're going to be competitive, which is what they seem to want to be, while also going young. It's kind of a dual mandate here. It's like the Fed, sort of. Although, some people don't want to listen to the Fed these days. But they're trying to go young. At the same time, they don't want to play for lottery picks. And we know this. And so those who want them to do that, you're just beating a dead horse at this point. And I have said go young. They just brought in a 32-year-old guard, but they also traded 2 older rotation players who weren't going to play, but if they did play, we're going to take minutes from younger guys, and that means that in the example of like Kyle Anderson, he might have taken minutes from Jovic, which is not something we wanted to see this season. They have a roster spot. Bradley Beal's not coming here. Okay, that was not a serious consideration, I don't believe. I think he ends up a Clipper, but we'll see. Dame Lillard is still out there potentially. Let me start with that, Eternal, because they could pursue that, essentially have a red shirt year with Dame. That is not a younger player at all. He's coming off blood clots, Achilles, all kinds of different things, but he's basically, he's geared up for a return, a big comeback. It's hard to bet against Dame, but at the same time, again, he's not really the direction that they seem to be going. They're also still in conversations to move Terry Rozier. I know that, and I would not be stunned if they find a way to move Andrew Wiggins, but they're not going to give Andrew Wiggins away. They've got to figure out, what the return would be for him. Let's start with Dame, Eternal. We'll move on to the others. Would you try to sign Dame here? And right now they're over the tax, by the way. That's to be considered. They're not over the first apron, but they'd be hard capped at the first apron. They're not going to go into the second apron or over the second apron. Would you go get Dame now? And that would be the final move. But again, you're not going to have him available this season, most likely.
And I think it really depends on what your projection plan is, right? So if you're saying, all right, yes, we just acquired Norm Powell, our next move is to move Andrew Wiggins, Haywood, you've already eliminated Kyle Anderson and Kevin Love, which was the shocker. But, Terry Rozier at some point, right? If to eliminate those three, this is barring whatever they may do with Fontecchio and maybe Tyler, maybe Norm Powell. Like it's whatever, right?
And they, just to be clear here, they could trade Fontecchio still, and they could keep him, or they could also waive and stretch him, which is something that was mentioned to me when they first acquired him, which was also something that could have happened with Kyle Anderson.
Right. So I think it really just depends on what exactly your progressive plan is. If it is to be back into contention next year, right? To be back into like deep playoff contention or championship contention or whatever, and you still feel like Dame after a season off, allowing his body to heal, get fully healthy and things of that nature, and maybe you go the Norm Powell route, which will be cheaper than Tyler. Maybe Norm Powell fits better with Dame. We've already seen that in Portland. If you want to convince yourself of that, and also too, because you're not necessarily trading anything to get Dame, you don't have to think about like what the back end of your rotation and everything like that is going to look like. You could plan for, okay, we're going to move Andrew and Haywood for this, then we'll use that for this and next year, or we'll couple some things together to better build out the roster around Dame, Norm, Bam, Khalil, or however you want to, set it. They could do that, but I think you first need the first domino to fall, which is what are you going to do with Andrew Wiggins? And then it becomes a little clearer of signing Dame.
But let me throw the caveat in on that one. So let's say that Dame wants to come to Miami again. We know how he feels about this place. He wanted to be here in the first place, right?
Right.
We know that he's got some family stuff that he's got to take care of over this next year, in addition to rehabbing, and it's one of the reasons it's better for him to have sort of gotten his money and getting waived to kind of deal with those situations.
Right.
But let's say he wants to come here, but let's say you're dragging your heels because you're trying to trade Wiggins or Rozier, create additional roster spots, pivot, etc. And then you lose the possibility of Dame. And I'm on the record as saying I'm lukewarm on the whole Dame thing. I understand the talent. He's Hall of Fame level talent, the character of the person. I'm not arguing with any of that. And the price is obviously going to be much, 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 much cheaper than the one that made them a little queasy before, which is why they wouldn't go all in for him, right? You're not going to be paying for that contract. But he is.
Nor are you trading for it either.
No, you're not trading anything, just like you didn't really trade anything for Powell. You're not trading anything, but also you're not, but you're also dealing with a guy who was not good defensively anyway, and he's not going to be better coming off a torn Achilles. And you got the blood clot thing, which they dealt with that once before, obviously, right, with Chris Bosh. So I'm saying that he's a damaged asset right now, but still could be an asset.
Yeah.
But if you really don't want to lose him, then it's like you can't really wait to see how some of these things play out with some of these others. You may just have to make a snap decision. So if I was to say to you, Eternal, snap decision, okay? Dame comes to you, says, I want to sign with you. It's not going to cost a whole lot. I want to rehab in your facility. I want to be down there. I'll be around your guys. I'll get to know your guys. I've got a relationship with Bam. I can help mentor Hakachonis or anybody, these other young players. Get in with your system, and then, I'm going to fight like hell to try to be back by March. Okay? So that's kind of where I'm at. Like, what is the would you then sign him? Just say sign him.
Sure, fuck it. I mean, because it's not really costing you anything, right? Like, I think when you and I, or me, you and Brian have talked about what the Heat could possibly do, I think we do operate within reason and not hope casting, right? Mm-hmm. And I think in this particular situation, it's not going to cost you your young guys to get Dame. You're not screwing your cap by getting Dame. Like, you're just making one or two moves to create space for him. You already have a young point guard that you're bringing up in the system. You have another younger, kind of older point guard that's there to kind of, hold the place. Getting Dame is just basically a cherry on top, right? Because it's a high reward, very low risk. So when you think about it in this new CBA and where Miami is right now, it makes a lot of sense to take that risk.
Okay. All right. So that's I'm good to get you on the record for that, because I think there are a lot of fans who feel that way, and they would just do it right now. But on the other side of this, what I do want to get into is what you would be looking for if you're looking to move Wiggins, Rozier, Fontecchio, some of the other players on this roster to continue to reshape it before training camp starts. Before we do, though, somebody will be certainly interested in that. Our friend Lynette, one of our biggest supporters on Off the Floor, on Playback, podcast, but also just really good at her job. You can find her at Aggressive Insurance Agency, the insurance agency that works for you, based in Lauderhill, Broward County, but services the entire Tri-County area. And it'll be personalized service. She'll work with you on getting you car insurance, particularly if you have a bad driving record. She's great at that. Homeowners insurance, renters insurance, smiling face, and goes through what all of your needs are. They're also, as I mentioned, huge Miami Heat fans. So check her out. Aggressive Insurance Agency. It's insurancebylynette.com. That's 2 N's and 2 T's. Aggressive Insurance Agency, 954-581-8800. Okay, so let's go to the next step here. This team has very few bigs. They didn't have a lot of bigs to begin with. I know this is a big focus of yours. They didn't. They have Ware, they have Bam, but they're starting them together supposedly, which means they don't have anything coming off the bench. I don't think they were planning to play Kevin Love very much this year anyway.
Right,
Kyle
exactly.
Anderson might have gotten some minutes, and Niko Jovic, who both you and I are a fan of, isn't really that well suited to playing backup 5. They've done this before. He doesn't really.
They were trying to go the route of him playing more wing, which is
correct.
why before
so
the trade.
But now he is the backup 5 by default, and you can't lean into any of these summer league guys, because I don't know that any of them are going to pop at this point. And Keyshawn Johnson is not a 5 either. And I know we're talking in numbers here, but they don't have much in the big rotation. That makes it seem to me like they have something else in the holster here. So
right, exactly.
That they're going to be trading Wiggins or Rozier, and they know that they're going to get a big. Right? I mean, that's what you have to be looking for right now if you're trying to fill out this roster. So what kind of big do they need?
So I would say you probably would like to go for somebody. I was pitching John Collins just because if you wanted versatility, which Miami now has a lot of functional size before the Norm Powell trade, right? You had a lot of functional size at different positions. I think now what they could have done if they would have went the John Collins route is you could have paired somebody that could allow Nico to slide to the wing if you want to see him at the wing as you're evaluating him, Jaime, and Pella, and allow them to be strictly at the wing spot. You could pair John Collins with Bam and Khalil, right? As you're working out your rotation and still be able to get that. Obviously, that's off the table now. And I think you still kind of want that archetype, somebody that could play with either Bam or Khalil, because we know injury is going to happen. Knock on wood, you hope they don't happen, but you still want to have your roster balanced in a way that if anything happens along the season, you're not missing a beat, right? Right. Hopefully you don't lose anybody for the season, but if you lose Khalil or Bam for a couple of games or whatever, you have somebody that can step in that can either hold the fort down or kind of replicate a little bit of what they do without screwing up your offense, and you have to like throw things out. So I think when you think about that, I think the main thing we've been talking about is the Andrew and Haywood to LA for a Dalton, right? Maybe Rui and Maxey Cleaver, right? That fits together. And I think you could Maxey could definitely play with either Bam or Khalil. Rui could play with either Bam or Khalil.
And Maxey and Rui can shoot. I mean, theoretically, they've had ups and downs, but they came in as players who could shoot. I do think that archetype, like we're talking about, like an Olynyk type archetype too. Like that type of player has fit next to Bam, could fit next to where you don't end up in a situation where Haywood Highsmith is your backup 5. Let me throw another one at you though, because look, they don't want to give Wiggins away. I mean, Wiggins is a guy who got 42 points for him in a game last year. I know that he seems indifferent at times. It's kind of his personality. I don't really get a read on whether he wants to be here or not, or that they know what to do with him or not. You and I have done episodes on that. But again, he's still a good player in the league. You don't want to give him nothing. With Rozier, though, like I don't see any way Rozier plays now in the current mix. So what do you just? They moved Lowry, and they would have been better off holding the expiring and not giving away the first. You wouldn't attach anything to Terry to get to move him off the roster, right? I don't think that makes sense.
It depends on what you get. Depends on what you get in that Andrew deal, or if you make it a much bigger deal, you could have somebody else send some seconds or whatever to whatever place. If it's Washington, if you want to go get Kelly O because you feel like Kelly O is more dependable than Maxi Kleber, also you still deepening your front court, which you had to do before you did the Kyle Anderson and Kevin Love trade, right? So if you go get somebody like a Kelly O that's involved in a bigger deal or in a Terry deal, or maybe you can rob the Bulls as well for an expiring deal in a cheaper deal in Vucevic, right? Vucevic is making 21 next season. Terry is making 26. So Miami would still be under the cap even after making the Andrew. They'll be further under the cap, actually, which you could then offer more. If we're doing the Dame thing, you could offer more to Dame, right? So if you made the Andrew deal and you get back Rui and Maxi Kleber, both of them are still making less than the combined salary of Andrew and Haywood. And then if you do make a deal for Kelly or Vucevic with Terry, you're still taking back less. So I think there are moves out there that Miami can make. Those are just two names. Maybe if you want to plan more for the future, maybe you can call Indiana about Obi Toppin, or another player on the Bulls is Jalen Smith, who could play with both Bam and Khalil.
That was a guy we linked. That was a guy we linked to the Heat at one point during the draft.
Yeah,
I mean, these guys are out there. It's just, I think what you have to be careful of is they've added backup bigs before, and sometimes they'll give them like pockets of decent play, like Dedmon did, or even Zeller did. I mean, people don't remember, but Cody played pretty well when he first came. Everybody just remembers the 4 minutes of hell, in the finals. But and Thomas Bryant gave them some minutes before it kind of went away. But they don't want to look. At the same time, they're not playing for a championship this year. I would like to see them lean into a younger big if they could, somebody that they could develop. But like if you got a Hachimura, like that's a player who has had functional minutes at this level. Who was a first round pick. So that's a different kind of player. I'll close with this. We're going to do more episodes on this as we go forward. Are you okay with taking less talent back for Andrew Wiggins for perhaps someone who is younger and a better fit with the roster as it grows? Because I feel like that might be what ends up happening.
I think, it depends on what the draft conversation you get back. You got to get something back if you're taking back even lesser talent. So if it's not multiple firsts, maybe it's a first, a swap, and some seconds. Just something just to kind of build out your treasure chest, right? Like obviously Andrew, this isn't Andrew coming off the 22 playoff run, or even what he did this season afterwards. So he's had some okay games for Miami. He had some okay games for Golden State this season. But I think all things considered, I think you would probably get a fair get back for him. And I think in Miami's case, the more picks, the better.
Yeah.
The younger player, cool, whatever. Like what they're focusing on is Nico Khalil, Jaime Pella, Casper, all of that.
See who pops, see who you extend, and at the same time, add other pieces to that core. I will say this before we were going to do this episode, and you and I are going to do more episodes, and maybe we'll even do another one tomorrow because I got another idea for you. But the biggest thing is they're in better position right now than they were because they gave up nothing to get a 20-point scorer.
Man,
nothing.
I'm glad you mentioned it because I'm sitting here thinking you're better today, and you didn't even make the Andrew trade yet. So, like for instance, and not only did you have to use Andrew, you got somebody back we didn't even think you were going to get back.
Right. That's you're still holding on to Wiggins, and Rozier is still expiring. I know it's not an easy contract to move, but it's not the worst either, and he could be traded at the trade deadline too, to a team that just wants to clear out some money.
So last thing before we get out of here, you got back a near all-star, right? Like by many of the Clippers media, not just the fans, thought Norman Powell should have been an all-star player last year, right? Coach selection, whatever. You got back him. If they get picks back with Andrew, your chest is now deeper. Now you can possibly sit at the table if a Giannis acts out. If an Ant acts out. You can not say you're going to win, but you can sit at the table and you at least have more to play with.
Right. You've at least got a fork and a knife now to eat with. We'll see if the meal actually ever comes. But Heat fans are never happy about anything, and you deal with them as much or more as anyone else. And they were happy when this trade happened, like 91% approval on Twitter. Somebody said, well, this isn't anything because he can't be a top 3 player in a contending team. I'm sorry they couldn't get Giannis for Kyle Anderson and Kevin Love.
Hold on, wait. First off, before we get out of here, I just want to clear something up because y'all do this a lot, and I'm convinced y'all don't watch basketball as much as y'all say y'all do. That man averaged 22 points with James Harden and Kawhi.
Yeah. He shot 42% from 3 on 7.1 attempts.
He had his most efficient season.
At age 31. He's still pretty damn good. He's been getting better. So there's no way to hate this trade. There's no way to do it. We'll see what they do next. All right, Eternal, appreciate it. Find him at Eternal Bast. More episodes to come. Thanks to Lynette. Thanks to Prize Picks. Use the code 5.